Welcome back to another episode of Hyrox Top Tips. Today we are going to be discussing the sled pull. Now the sled pull is your third exercise in Hyrox other than your running. So you'll run 1 kilometre, do your 1k ski, you'll run another kilometre, do your 50 metres of sled pushing, you'll run 1 more kilometre, and then we'll be on to the infamous 50 metres of sled pulling. Now similar to the sled push, this is broken down into 4 lengths of 12.5 metres. Now the weight of the sled, again as I said, is around about 35 kilograms. So including the sled weight, women are going to be pulling about 75 kilograms in the open division, and men in the open division are going to be pulling around about 105 kilograms. So let's have a look at what the sled pull actually looks like. Didn't even get to bronze. The movement standards for the sled pull are very simple. You need to pull the sled from one side of the track to the other, which again is 12.5 metre, 4 times. Now the main movement standards for this is that you can only use your arms. I mean, I haven't ever seen anyone sit down and pull it with their feet, but you can only use your arms to pull. Now the main movement standards for this is that when you're pulling it, you must stay in your box. You'll notice on the screen that there is I'd say about nearly a 1.5 metre box where you can utilise to your advantage and walk in between. But if you come out of that box, you'll get a penalty as you need to pull it from one side to the other. When it is in that box, of course, you can then run from one side of the track to the other and begin your next sled pull. Things we want to look for in a sled pull include a nice long reach. I see a lot of people going onto the sled and just literally grabbing it as close to their body as they can. But if you want to get the work done with minimal energy wastage and in as quick time as possible, that long reach as far away from you as you can is going to be your best option. Because if you think, imagine every pull is from here compared to here, over 6-7 pulls, every single pull I'm creating this much distance. So there's one thing to consider, is reaching as far away as you can. As well, it's going to take the slack out of the rope a little bit better, so it's going to be a little bit easier to pull towards you. When we are pulling with a slacked rope, it becomes a lot harder to create that pull, that resistance, that friction. It's not really very good. Second thing to consider is utilizing your area. Again, I spoke about the box, but I don't see enough people use it. Now again, most people watching this video are probably in the open division, just wanting to do well at Hyrox or perform their own standard, do their own thing. So the approach of standing there pulling without moving your legs probably isn't for you. It does take a lot of strength, and further down the line in the workout for your row, for your farmers carries, and even your wall balls, you're fatiguing your upper body out, which you really don't need to do. It's a waste of energy, and although it will save you that much time, it is again only the third exercise in Hyrox, so we want to try and conserve ourselves as much as we can. Now when I say utilize the box, I mean getting a nice big pull on the rope, bringing it towards you, and then walking your feet back as far as that box allows you to go. It's similar to that long reach. The more movement we can create from one pull, the quicker it will get done, and again the more energy we will save. So try and avoid just using half of your box. You want to use all of your box, use your legs to drive those weights back. You also want to avoid, when you are doing this, pulling through your lower back or rounding your posture. These things further down the line are going to cause you a little bit of irritation, We don't want our lower back to blow up. We don't want our lower back to take the load. So just make sure that when we are sitting into this movement, that we're sitting up as tall as our mobility, our posture allows us to do, and pulling it using the force through the ground as with our arms just supporting it basically. Another thing to avoid is pulling it in towards your body rather than walking back with the actual rope or the sled. We want to make sure that again we create that resistance, we hold that resistance, and that there's as little slack in that rope as possible. When you pull in and bend your arms, you're going to use a lot of energy through your biceps, through your shoulders, which we want to save, and you're not using the most powerful muscles in your body. So use your legs, come all the way back with that sled. With the rope, it's down to personal preference on where you thread it through. Some people like to have the rope running down the side of their body. I myself prefer to have it running through my legs. Now don't get me wrong, there is more of a risk of you falling over with it going in between your legs, but you kind of get the hang of it the more you practice it. Whenever you're watching this video, you have this much time till your next Hyrox to practice it. I find it a lot more efficient at coming in between the legs, and yeah, it's much more simple. With the sled pull, you will not have to waste any time turning the sled around or moving it from one side to the other, because there's a rope which goes from one side of the sled to where you are, and then when you complete that side, there will be another rope on the other side all ready for you from one side to the other. Something to take into consideration is, again, like on the sled push, the carpet. In my professional opinion, it's not the best carpet in the world. It does create a little bit more resistance. So when you are training, similar to the sled push, you want to load up a lot more weight into that movement just to get used to, one, doing it under fatigue, because you'll be 20-30 minutes into your race, and two, you actually want the weights of the sled to feel a lot lighter on the day of your race. It is so nice when you've been training hard, you've been lifting heavier weights than you need to, and then you come to the sled and it feels quite literally like a walk in the park. When we talk about tactics for the sled, it's kind of one of those situations where whatever technique you go for, you just need to try and keep that sled moving. You really don't want to let that sled stop still for too long. You ideally don't want to be gassing yourself out. So again, like the sled push, I did an EMOM. On this, you might consider doing every 90 seconds. Therefore, you'll get off the sled before that 6-minute mark. Now, that every 90 seconds does include transitioning from one side of the sled to the other. If you're a little bit stronger, you might be considering doing that EMOM approach, where it's every minute on the minute pulling it towards you and then so forth. But in my opinion, the sled pull is one of the slower movements of Hyrox. So just understand it's not going to be your fastest score. Guys, thank you for watching. Again, I really appreciate all of the love, all of the likes, all of the views that I'm getting on these Hyrox topic videos on my channel. So if you could continue to show the support, these videos are going to reach out to a lot more people who are just like yourself trying to get help in Hyrox. Thank you for your time. Peace out.